Hi, y'all. How's it going? I hope you're doing well. I'm like pulling out the y'all because I'm in Kentucky again. So I'm recording this video from my hometown from Versailles, Kentucky. Not Versailles, but Versailles. I know. I used to always say I'm from Lexington because it was embarrassing to say I'm from Versailles, but I suppose it just is what it is. So I'm recording from my mom's office. She is a teacher, and for most of the pandemic, they were online. So this is like her backdrop here for her classes. And I actually, when I first started online teaching, I started in this room. I lived with my parents a couple of years ago while I was kind of having a life crisis. It's interesting in the US, living with your parents is seen as something negative, like when you're maybe over 22 or 23. But in Mexico, in general, I would say it's not seen as in the same light. I think, of course, it depends on the individuals, but yeah, I have a lot of friends that still live with their parents, and it's like totally normal, which is just a little sociology there, a little observation. But this video today, I wanted to talk about Cambly, about my job where I'm working. Why am I always struggling with the light? Okay, I think that's good. Um, so about my job, as you all know, I am an online teacher for Cambly, and overall, I have maintained a 4.9 or above rating for over a year. So I had like maybe a couple of weeks where it went down to, I think I was at 4.88 was the worst. Here. Was the worst score that I ever had, or the worst rating, I should say. So each teacher is rated, I think the ratings come out on Wednesdays. And there's a lot of factors that go into why your number is what it is. I think mine dropped because I had a student that we just didn't have a good connection, and he was a new student, and I think he must have given me a bad rating for I can't remember why, or I never knew why. But yeah, so for just like 1 or 2 weeks, I was at 4.88, but other than that, I have been at 4.9 or above. Right now, I have a 4.91 rating. So I just wanted to give you all, for teachers or future teachers, some like tips, tricks, ideas, things that I found that help me to maintain that high standard. And as a Cambly tutor, um, if you get a certain amount of hours and students and keep your rating at this a certain level, then you can become a super tutor. And I don't know what those exact numbers are. Obviously, I struggle to always know the small details, but I will add those in the comments of this video so you can see for those that maybe are already teachers and they're interested in becoming a super tutor. So to start off, I just wanted to tell you how I always begin my classes. And let me put a pause here and say that when they're regular students, it's really different because I have a student where I've had him for over a year now, and we literally just like jump right into it like, hey, what's up, how's it going, tell me everything. And I know he doesn't like to be corrected. I know he only wants to talk. I know that asking him questions is a good idea, and I know what to ask him about, right? So this is more like for when I have a completely new student, how I handle those first interactions. So I always say hi. I ask them how they pronounce their name. They usually, in the little chat box, it'll tell you the phonetic way to say their name, but I always ask like just in case, and then I say my name too, because my name Hallie is not like Amy, where it's a really well-known name. So I want to make sure that I can explain as well how my name is pronounced. And I always ask them, so one of my favorite questions to begin is to ask, how was your day? Because a lot of students get tired of like this same old, where are you from? What do you do? That kind of thing. And they even get annoyed with you if you ask them those questions, which is valid because you've never met them, but they've probably met 50 tutors, right? So they've already had the same conversation, but it's kind of awkward to like get to know somebody without asking those questions. So I usually try and let them come out naturally, and I start with, how are you doing today, and what did you do today? So after we have just this little brief conversation there, I then ask them two questions. So I ask them first, what are you looking for today? But when I ask that, I make it very specific. I say, what are you looking for today? Would you like to talk? Would you like to have general conversation practice? Do you have an article you want to read, a lesson? So I give them those options, because if you just say, what do you want to do today? Most likely they'll just say like, oh, just talk, unless it's a student that is pretty experienced in Cambly and they already have an idea of exactly what they want to do, which I don't get that too often when they're new students, because a lot of students that really have a fixed idea, that's because they have regular tutors, and they've just like my students, that I already know what they want and we can just go from there. So I always ask that question. And then the second question that I ask is, how often would you like me to correct you? Would you like me, no, I should say, when do you want me to correct you? So I ask the question, I say, do you want me to correct you as we're speaking, or would you like me to wait until the end of class? The most common answer is during. I would say probably like 70% of my students say that they want to be corrected in the moment, but there are students that say they want to wait until the end, or they don't want to be corrected at all. So for those students that they want to be corrected in the moment, I make sure that I always type the correction that I'm speaking. And this is just a general Cambly. This is not like a, wow, I thought of this. This is, I was told to do this. I believe it's in the tutor handbook as well. So just making sure that you type the corrections. It can be a little tricky, right? Because it's like a lot of things all at once. You're talking, you're listening, you're thinking of the next question as you're correcting their grammar. But once you get used to it, then it's really not that bad. So that's just a couple of things like during the lessons. Also, if they say anything like, oh, I have 5 brothers, or I'm from Dammam, or I'm a mechanical engineer, I make sure and put it in the notes section. So I think one of the best ways to keep a strong rating and just have a good relationship with your students is if you remember things. So if you have great memory, then you don't need to worry about writing anything down. But I have terrible memory, and also I have a lot of students. So I just make sure that I always write it in. I remember a student the other day I was talking, and they're from Egypt, but they live in Kuwait, I think. And I was like, oh, yeah. So I remember you moved from Egypt a few years ago. And he was just like, whoa, like, how did you remember that? And I did not get away with my trick, but I'm just like, it's in my chat box. So that's in the personal notes. And it even says in parentheses, only you will see this. So you know you're not typing to them, like, about them. That would be so weird if it was like, Hallie, 25, lives in Mexico. And you're just like, what? So that's super important. And then one last thing I want to say, because this video is already getting long, but if you ever have a cancellation or anything you want to change the time, whatever it is, then just send a message to your students, because that goes such a long way. And it just makes them remember that, like, you're human, you have things that happen, but that you're thinking about them. You're not just like, well, just bye-bye, I'm not too worried about you. No, like, you want to keep it personal, and just like you would want them to do that to you too. And if you can remember, like, their birthdays or their kids' birthdays or a big event coming up, or if they had an interview and you ask them in the next class, how did it go? Like, those kinds of things, they also go a long way, because it makes the student feel like you care about them. And honestly, like, I really hope you do care about them. I love my students. Of course, like, I'm not gonna lie, I have moments where I just feel like, oh my gosh, I need this class to end. I have 1,000 things to do. But in general, like, just like most teachers that I know, I care a lot about my students. I tell my friends about them. Like, I had a student once, in another platform, but in one of my friends, he would always ask, oh yeah, and how is so and so doing, because he was a kid and he was just like so funny, and I would always tell him stories. So just like those kinds of things, that you form personal connections with your students, even though it is a través de, I'm going to speak Spanish, even though it's through a screen. So hopefully these tips are helpful. I have so many more now that I've been with Cambly. I think I have my page right here. I'm going to check. How many minutes? I've been with Cambly for 26,769 minutes, and I've met 548 students. So that's a lot. Oh my gosh, that's so many. Wow. So anyways, please feel free to reach out to me. Best of luck if you're applying, and let me know if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. Bye, y'all.